Okay, so having controlled my blend shapes with this little interface, I can close the shape editor and the driven key window for the moment. Next, I would like to take a look at all of the influence objects that we've added here, and I wanted to go through the blend shape concept first because this little interface that I've got over here is something that a lot of facial riggers will use to control all of these joints. What they'll do is they will take these joints here and they'll make a little circle interface where they put a little dot for each of the joints in approximately the same location. And what that does is it pulls the facial controls away from the face so that people have a good clear view of the face. And I'll just take my blue pencil and draw approximately what that would look like. There would be a face here, and then we do tiny little circles for brow, for here, for here. You might even do even smaller circles here for the lid. Um, I don't know how I feel about this. I admit I used to teach this way a billion years ago, more for the nose, more for the lips. So yeah, I used to teach this way. It gets really busy. You can see how busy that's getting. And let's delete it completely. You don't need that mess on the screen. But it does move the face controls off of the actual face. And for a lot of animators, that's great because they don't want to look at the controls, they want to look at the face. But I think it's a little awkward because it does create a weird kind of offset between what's going on with the head and what's going on with the controls. So I'm iffy on that. So instead, I think that we are going to make controls directly, just directly on the face, and that's going to be a bit easier. Um, it's not going to be as bad as it sounds because you probably were wondering why I didn't bother orienting any of these joints. The basic answer is that their orientation doesn't matter. They're all end joints. And the orientation of end joints is always a little bit different from everything else. So I'm going to say that the location of my facial controls doesn't necessarily need to respect the joint orientation. So essentially, I'm just going to open up my custom curve window here, and I'm going to start making little tiny circles for every single joint that I've got. I know. You're like, this is too easy, Claire. You've got to do this in a way that's much harder. We need more challenge. So let's just turn this off, and I'm going to take this circle, let's just V-snap it up to this joint, and I like mine to be rotated that way so that they're facing the camera. And this circle is way too big, so let's shrink it on down so it's nice and small. It's still kind of visible. Go a little smaller. That looks good. Okay, so let's take this, let's name this one left upper brow 01. And then I am just going to Control D to duplicate and V-snap it over to the next one, and the next one, and the next one, and the next one. And those are going to be my left upper brow. Whew. So yeah, I mean, I could keep going here, Control D to duplicate, and then we'll just V-snap this down here. This is going to be the left L brow 01, and then Control D to duplicate for the rest of the brow, and V-snap over here, Control D, V, just check to make sure I'm still in the right joint. There are so many joints. V, and all good. You don't have to watch me do this. That would be so boring. I cannot even imagine. So again, I am going to pause my video and I will just duplicate all of my left side controls. And when I've got all of the left side controls done, then I will come back and show you how to do the right side. So bear with me while I do some duplication. I will be right back in just a moment. I'm back. I finished up and I just wanted to show you that on the eyelids I kind of used a slightly different technique. I know that all of my joints are snapped to the curve clusters, and let's be honest, this is a big ol' mess. It was getting really hard to snap to the joints, so I just pulled up my curve tool command and I made clusters, because clusters are snap points. I snapped to the clusters instead. So do whatever's easiest for you in terms of just getting these all organized. You will find a way. It will be fine. So I've got all of these here on the left side. Let's just grab them all. I am going to freeze transformations on each of them so that they all know that they are standing up in the right direction. Oh, you know, I can delete my cluster handles too. I don't need those anymore. Now that you've seen them and you know they exist, that's the only important thing. So again, we're just going to freeze transformations on every single one of these little circles so they all know that they are in the default position. I'll grab them all, and just like we did with the left and right facial curves, I'm just going to group them together. I think I just duplicated them. Let's not do that. Let's group them together. Duplicate the group node and scale to -1 along the x-axis. Freeze transformations on that, and then inside here, let's do a search and replace for LF and RT. And now I've got all of the control curves I could ever possibly want. So many. I'll turn fish face here on. The eyes, because it looks really weird without the eyes. And you can start to see why some people like moving all of these controls off of the face and putting them on the side, because that is a lot of little circles hanging around on this face. So with that in mind, I'm going to pause here, and when I come back, I will have these curves start to influence the joints.